and welcome to this lecture on break and continue statements. In this lecture, we're going to learn about what break and continue statements are, how to use them, common errors associated with them. Okay, let's open up our script editor in the viewport. Okay, if you click or if you press and hold the spacebar, go to Panels, Panel, fifth up from the bottom, the script editor. Clear our window at the top of the X. Also, make sure that within the history drop down here that you have show stack trace and line numbers in errors. Okay, what are break and continue statements? So in Python, the break statement is used to immediately exit a loop, whether it's a while loop or a for loop, okay, and continue executing the code after that loop. For example, if you have a while loop that is running indefinitely until a certain condition is met, you can use the break immediately to exit a loop once a condition is met. So the continue statement, on the other hand, is used to skip the current iteration of a loop and move on to the next iteration. For example, if you have a for loop that is iterating over a list of numbers and you want to skip all the even numbers, you can use a continue to skip those iterations and only process the odd numbers. Both these statements can help you control the flow of your code and make it slightly more efficient. So, okay, let's have a little look at them then with an example. How to use them. Okay. So let's type in, so for I and range, we'll go with between, we'll count from 1 to 10. So, all right, we'll say if, okay, I equals 5, then break. Okay, and we'll print I. Okay, so the break statement is used to exit a loop prematurely, okay? In Python, or when Python encounters a break statement inside a loop, it immediately just exits out that loop and continues with the code that comes after it. So everything that is indented from this for, okay, will be broken after the break occurs. Okay, let's have a little look at what happens here. So for range and I, so we know we're going to be printing. Okay, let's remove this code. We know we're going to print up to 10, but if we put our break in, and select and press Control and Enter, then when we get to 5, if I equals 5, we're going to break. So we're not going to print 5 because the print is after the break functionality. So the expression I equals 5 has been met and the code has been broken. So we're not actually ever going to print 5. Okay, we're going to print everything up to 5 though. So as we've just stated, we're looping through. Okay, if we hit the break statement, we're going to jump out of this whole block of code. So remembering that if we have code after down here, print, okay, we're not going to break out of the whole script. We're only breaking out of whatever for loop or whatever code block is within this for loop. Okay, so let's have a little look at the continue statement. So what we could do is now just press continue. Okay, or type in continue, sorry. So we're now going to be printing up to 10, but if I equals 5, or is using our equality operator, okay, and our operands, okay, I and 5. Okay, we're going to print 1, 2, 3, 4. We've skipped 5, and then we're going 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we could use a couple of these. Okay, we could go, or actually we could go I equals 8. Okay, let's see what happens here. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10. So again, anything that is meeting this if condition here, okay, and these expressions we are going to get continue. We're going to skip past them. So we're not going to hit the print because we're continuing to the next iteration. But obviously if we say break, that would just end at the first one of these that is met, the first one of these conditions that was met. Okay, so pretty straightforward, I think, so far. I'm hoping that you follow this. This is a really useful bit of code to be working with, just so you know. But let's do one more. Let's just say we want to continue and not print out every even number. So let's use our modulus operator again. Okay, if you remember correctly, this returns us the remainder of dividing one number by another. So if we are dividing this number by this number, it will return us the number that is left over. And then we can say if that equals 0, if nothing's left over, we know that we have an even number because everything that is divisible by 2 is an even number. Okay, so now we should just get, let's clear our output window. We should just get our uneven numbers that are printed, because every time we have got an even number, we're going to continue. Okay, so we're checking for equality here, and we are checking that every number that is left over here, okay, is 0. Okay, and then if it is, we're going to continue. We're going to skip over that item of the loop, and we're just going to get our odd numbers. We can obviously flip that the other way. We can say, well, if it's not, if it's not equal, if it's unequal. So now what we're going to do is just print out the even numbers. Okay, so remember that is using our modulus operator. Okay, lovely little thing, very cool, and will be very useful to you. All right, so that's our break and continue statements. That's them in a nutshell. They're pretty straightforward. One more thing, I should say that when nesting, so if you are going through one block of code and then you're saying actually, let's say, so if everything is not equal, okay, we're going to say, well, if, let's do another one of these actually. Let's say, well, maybe it's divisible by 5. Okay, so let's use this again. Then continue. So now we're going to actually give us a little bit. Okay, so again, this is only actually going to continue this loop here. Even though it's nested, this will only break, this will only continue on this loop. All right, so this is very cool. All right, so we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. But, okay, we've gone with, okay, it's anything that is divisible by 5, okay, that is not divisible by 5 is going to continue. So everything that is coming through is everything except for the item that is divisible by 5 and divisible by 2. So we've got a 5, okay, and we've got everything else that is divisible by 5 and 2. Okay, but let's have a look at another option. So let's print, let's do a nested for loop now, because this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. Let's do an item, let's do a range up to 5, okay, so otherwise we're just going to be here for hours while we print off items. But now, if we break out of this loop here, so if we go, if item equals 5, break, okay. We're going to print I and item and see what we get. So you'll see what we've got here. Oof, let's clear this window and do this again. Okay, let's look at the very last step here. So this, so the first thing we're printing out is I, which is the iteration of 10. Okay, and we're cycling through that, and then we're cycling through the next loop until we get to 5. Okay, and then we're breaking out of this loop. So then we're starting our cycle again. Now, a break only works within the current loop that it is working within, okay? So if we have one block of code here with a break, that'll only break out of this loop, okay? We want to break out of this loop, we need to actually put a block or put a break within this for, okay? Because whichever for you're nested within will be the item that is broken from, okay? Or that you can break out of. So that's one more slightly complex way of looking at it, okay, which again you should be aware of if you've got multiple loops. Okay, let's say you're cycling down the side of an object and then around its circumference, checking for the vertice distance between another. You might want to break if you reach the last vertice, or if you reach a vertice which maybe has the functionality or has the distance that you require for a controller to be placed. For example, I'm trying to think of a random situation. Sorry if that's confusing, but okay, you can only break from whichever block you are in. If you want to break out of this block now, you can then also do another if statement. If statement, okay, there, okay, colon, and then break. Okay, So this will break out of this statement. This will break out of this. This will break out of this loop. Sorry, this one. This will break out of this loop. Okay. So common errors. Incorrect placement of the continue statement. Yeah, easily done. If the break or continue statement is placed in the wrong place, it may not have the intended effects. Okay, it may cause an error, or it may just continue before you execute a certain part of the functionality you need. So just remember, okay, just check where your continues are. Use some prints to check, okay, the output of your code. Okay, the break or continue in a nested loop, like we just talked about. If a break or continue statement is used in a nested loop, it may cause unexpected results. For example, a break statement in an inner loop may cause the outer loop to terminate prematurely. Okay, if your outer loop is looking for some functionality with that inner loop, okay, breaking out of one loop will cause another then to have finished cycling through that inner loop more prematurely than you were expecting, okay? Because we're cycling through, as we did before, 10 items and then just 5, whereas you might be expecting to go 10 times 10 every time, okay? But remember, break and continue statements within loops or within nested loops, okay, will only affect those nested loops, but may have unexpected circumstances for the outer loop. Okay, using break or continues outside of a loop, easily done. Okay, break and continue statements used outside of a loop will just result in a syntax error. So nothing too serious, but easy to fix. Just remember, these can only be used in loops. Just execute the whole window. Okay, so not initializing variables before using a break or a continue. Okay, obviously very simple again. You've just got to make sure that you initialize all of the items that you are working with before you enter your loop, so that the break and the continue statements can be used and the variables are being picked up. Let me think. Okay, so using a break or continue in a function that is not called within a loop. Okay, if the break or continue statement is used within a function that is not called within a loop, it will just have no effect. Okay. So to avoid these errors, it is important to clarify and consider the placement of using break and continue statements and to thoroughly test the code before deploying it in production. In this video, we have learned about break and continue statements, how to use them, and the common errors associated with them. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you on our next video.